John Wayne's heartbreaking night, with Johnny Carson loudly broken. The studio lights were bright that night, but somehow, John Wayne looked like a man carrying a darkness no spotlight could hide. When he walked onto The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, the audience erupted in applause. They saw the legendary cowboy, the voice, the walk, the confidence that had made him an American icon. But Johnny Carson noticed something else. He noticed the tiredness in Wayne's eyes. Wayne smiled and took his seat beside Carson. For a while, they joked like old friends. The audience laughed, and Wayne gave them the familiar grin they had seen in countless westerns. But then the conversation became quieter. Carson asked him about life, family, and what it felt like to grow older after spending so many years playing heroes on the big screen. Wayne paused. For perhaps the first time that evening, the tough cowboy seemed unsure what to say. He looked down, took a breath, and quietly admitted that getting older changes the way a man sees things. The laughter disappeared. Wayne spoke about friends he had lost, people who had once stood beside him when he was young and ambitious. One by one, they were gone. The years had taken them away. He said that when you are young, you think tomorrow will always come. But when you get older, you begin to understand that tomorrow is never promised. Carson listened without interrupting. The audience was completely silent. Then Wayne talked about his children and grandchildren. His voice softened as he described how much they meant to him. Beneath the tough image of the Duke was a father and grandfather who simply wanted more time with the people he loved. Carson looked at him and asked whether he ever regretted anything. Wayne smiled sadly. He said that every man has things he wishes he could change, but eventually you have to make peace with the road you've traveled. For a moment, neither man spoke. The cameras continued rolling. Wayne looked toward the audience. The same man who had spent decades portraying fearless cowboys suddenly seemed wonderfully human. He wasn't John Wayne the legend anymore. He was simply an aging man remembering the people he had loved, the roads he had traveled, and the years that had passed far too quickly. Carson finally broke the silence with a gentle joke, giving the audience permission to laugh again. Wayne laughed, but there was something different in that laugh. Something fragile. Something that made the audience realize that even heroes grow old. When the interview ended, Carson stood beside him. The audience gave Wayne a long-standing ovation. He looked around the studio, smiled, and tipped his head in gratitude. Then he walked away from the desk. For everyone watching, it was another television appearance. But for those who understood the sadness behind his smile, it felt like something more. It felt like a goodbye to an era. John Wayne had spent his life teaching audiences that heroes never run from the darkness. Yet perhaps his greatest lesson was much simpler. Even the strongest men can be afraid of losing the people they love. And sometimes behind the biggest smile, there is a heart quietly saying, "I wish I had a little more time," loudly broken. Years later, people would remember John Wayne as the Duke, the cowboy, the legend, the symbol of strength. But that night, sitting beside Johnny Carson, America saw something beyond the legend. They saw a human being. And that is why the memory of John Wayne still hurts. Because legends may live forever on the screen. But the men behind those legends only get one life.